Yesterday, we had a conversation that still echoes in my mind. You see, my eldest son and his wife are returning to our home for the birth of their child. This means changes are coming, and part of those changes involve rearranging our living space. As a result, I've been asked to relocate my belongings outside, which came as quite a surprise to me. The reasoning given highlighted the challenges of our current living arrangement, mentioning the anticipation of the new baby, the support needed for my son's endeavors, and the financial contributions to household expenses. It's a complex situation, as I share this home with my mother-in-law, my brother-in-law, his wife, and my husband. The dynamics are intricate, filled with a blend of personal and shared responsibilities. In an effort to keep peace and maintain harmony within our crowded household, I've taken on the role of mediator, trying to ensure everything runs smoothly. However, the request to vacate my space for the impending arrival of my nephew or niece marks a turning point. Despite my reluctance to store my belongings outside, I agreed to leave temporarily, promising to return later for my things. This decision was not taken lightly, but it was made with the understanding that it would help alleviate some of the tension in the house. As soon as I stepped outside, I reached out to a junk removal service, signaling a shift in my approach. No longer bogged down by overthinking, I acted decisively. My name is Anaya, a 43-year-old who coaches clients, and my husband Keaton, also 43, is a dedicated restaurateur managing 5 establishments. Though we're both in our 40s and newlyweds, people often mistake us for having been together longer, perhaps even with children of our own. Our journey to marriage was unconventional. We were both deeply immersed in our careers, with little thought spared for personal life until a serendipitous encounter in a bar changed everything. I ventured into the bar one evening after work, seeking a quiet place to unwind. It was my first time there, attracted by the stylish ambiance yet apprehensive about going alone. To my relief, I found a welcoming spot at the counter, designed for individuals like me. The bar was a place where many women felt comfortable visiting solo, a detail that made me feel more at ease. It was there that I met Keaton, whose friendly conversation and genuine smile made me a regular visitor. His approach, though part of his job, felt particularly meaningful to me, offering companionship at a time when I least expected it. Our relationship blossomed from these casual encounters, leading us to where we are today, navigating the complexities of family life and personal space together. Once upon a time, at the edge of a bustling tavern, Keaton and I found it perfectly natural to engage in conversations over my meals. This habit opened a door to discussing the nitty-gritty of training clients, which I'm quite familiar with. My job often involves introducing cutting-edge tech solutions to businesses, helping them weave these innovations into their strategic visions. For example, I once recommended a tablet-based ordering system to a restaurant aiming to cut down on staffing expenses and boost its operational efficiency. This suggestion, now a widespread practice, initially shocked Keaton with its cost implications. Despite the sticker shock, Keaton, always keen to absorb new information, saw these chats as opportunities to enhance his business acumen. Our discussions weren't just superficial exchanges, they were bridges to understanding each other's dedication and hard work. Keaton admired my professional drive, and I respected his relentless quest for knowledge and application. In the midst of our busy schedules, Keaton proposed the idea of dining out together, a prospect that excited me. The thought of a date sounded so youthful, almost out of place for someone nearing 40, but the feeling was genuine and mutual. Keaton's invitations weren't a one-time affair. They became a series of pleasant dining experiences, gradually knitting a romantic tapestry between us. Fast forward 3 years, both of us at 38, we made the beautiful decision to tie the knot. Opting out of a lavish wedding, we chose a simple celebration, capturing our happiness in photographs. Post-marriage, I'd moved into Keaton's spacious 3-story home, adorned with a garden and nestled in a prestigious neighborhood, commanding a rent of about $20,000. Living with Keaton's mother immediately after our wedding might raise eyebrows for some, but at 39, I found the arrangement to be practical and comforting. With my father-in-law having passed away and my mother-in-law at 68, our new living dynamic felt not just necessary, but warmly welcome. Keaton's proposal to cohabit with his mother showcased a thoughtful blend of practicality and respect for family, traits that only deepened my love and admiration for him. Right off the bat, I agreed to live with my mother-in-law, but I quickly realized it might have been hasty to do so. When I moved into my husband's notably spacious home, I was even given a luxurious office room for myself. The house, with its many empty rooms, felt excessively large for just the three of us. After getting settled, I couldn't help but ask my husband why we needed such a vast space for him and his mother. He shared with me about his older brother, 3 years his senior, who had drifted away after college. They'd lost touch, and it had been years since any news of him. My husband maintained a hope that despite his brother's unpredictable life, he might one day return to them, which led to choosing a bigger home. I thought it was a bit much, I admitted. But then I came into your life, and it seems to make sense, my husband replied, with a smile as he sorted through my books. He spoke fondly of his brother, Dylan, despite his inconsistent career path. My husband held no ill feelings towards him. However, my mother-in-law, overhearing our conversation, did not share this sentiment. She appeared at my future office's doorway, her expression less than thrilled at the mention of Dylan. It's understandable. A mother may harbor resentment towards a son who seems to evade his responsibilities. The potential for conflict between my husband and mother-in-law over Dylan worried me. I'm not too thrilled about this either, but now that we're living together, let's try to get along, I implored. My mother-in-law's response was to clarify her stance right from the start before she walked away, the sound of her slippers echoing in the hall. I'm sorry, I'll speak with her, my husband offered. It's okay, I faced similar situations since we met. I'm here to strengthen the bond with your mother as we live together, I reassured him, taking a book from his hands to place on the shelf. It seemed a small step towards building our new life together, amidst the complexities of family dynamics. My age seems to be a sticking point for my mother-in-law. At 39, having children isn't out of the question, but it's understandably a concern for her. Adding to this, Keaton's elder brother Dylan is unmarried and without children, heightening her fears of never becoming a grandmother. In her eyes, both Dylan, for not living up to the expectations of the eldest son, and I, for potentially not being able to bear children, fall short. I get where she's coming from, but reversing time isn't within my capabilities. After we settled into our new life together, my mother-in-law's aloofness became more pronounced. She often ignored me or responded with disinterest, keeping her interactions with me to a bare minimum. It was a lonely existence, but without any overt hostility, I felt I should be thankful for small mercies. I held on to hope that time might bridge the gap between us. My concern soon shifted towards Keaton and his well-being, especially concerning his business. How's work going? I inquired one evening, noticing his distress. Not great. I've got to figure something out financially, he responded, a look of worry overtaking him as he sat at our dining table. I paused my chores to sit with him, lending an ear to his concerns about the economic challenges his restaurant faced, including the possibility of having to close another location. A year into our marriage, Keaton's business troubles intensified, with one of his restaurants already closed and another on the brink. His distressed demeanor weighed heavily on me, yet my mother-in-law seemed detached from our concerns. Her sharp critique cut through the quiet of our home, questioning my support for Keaton's business and my role as his wife. Her words, overheard during our discussion, left me pondering her perspective. Despite her harsh judgment, I understood that people see things through their own lenses. Keaton's endeavors in the restaurant industry were his own, and while I supported him in my way, navigating our roles and responsibilities within the marriage was a continuous journey. Keaton has been at the helm of his own restaurant for nearly a decade, navigating through ups and downs with resilience. I have every confidence he'll weather this storm as well. However, my mother-in-law's harsh critique, suggesting that my worried expressions might amplify Keaton's stress, hit hard. Her words, though harsh and filled with disdain, held a sliver of truth. Taking her feedback in stride, I chose to double down on my support for Keaton, offering him a smile of assurance. A year later, Keaton's hard work paid off, preventing the closure of a second store. Proudly, I shared the news with my mother-in-law, only to be met with further criticism. Her accusation of my lack of faith in Keaton stung, yet I tried to see the silver lining in the situation. Despite the tension at home, Keaton's business success felt like a win. However, this semblance of equilibrium was short-lived. Soon, whispers of Keaton's extramarital affair reached me. The thought of him squandering our improved financial situation on such recklessness was baffling. To add to the turmoil, just as I was bracing myself to address the affair, news came that Dylan's girlfriend was expecting. They were considering moving in with us and even joining the restaurant's team. The timing couldn't have been worse. Caught in a whirlwind of personal and familial challenges, I found myself at a crossroads. My mother-in-law initiated a conversation about accommodating Dylan and his growing family, shifting the focus momentarily away from Keaton's indiscretion. As I listened from the dining room, contemplating my next steps, I realized the complexities of our situation were deepening. The impending arrival of Dylan's family and the need to confront Keaton's behavior loomed large, marking a pivotal moment in our lives. I found myself on the outside of a conversation I had never been a part of, feeling utterly isolated as my mother-in-law and Keaton discussed the future of Dylan, Keaton's estranged brother. It was a peculiar turn of events, considering she had previously expressed disappointment in Dylan for not living up to his responsibilities as the eldest son. Yet, the prospect of welcoming a grandchild into the family seemed to erase all past grievances, transforming her attitude completely. She was now advocating for them to not only move in with us, but also to provide them with employment opportunities. Keaton, who had always maintained a soft spot for Dylan, had rented this spacious home with such eventualities in mind. However, the dynamics had shifted with my arrival, and the proposal to bring Dylan and his family into our home felt awkward and misplaced. Observing Keaton from across the room, I noticed his conflicted look, a silent acknowledgement of the complexity of our situation. My mother-in-law pressed on, insisting that it was a positive development for Dylan to seek our help during his time of need. Yet Keaton's hesitance and the look of concern directed at me revealed his inner turmoil. It seemed he was caught between his loyalty to his family and his commitment to our relationship. My hopes that he would assert himself in this discussion faded as he reluctantly agreed to his mother's plan. The strain in my relationship with my mother-in-law, the unsettling news of Keaton's affair, and now the impending arrival of Dylan and his expanding family felt like an insurmountable pile of issues. Overwhelmed and unsure of how to proceed, I chose to retreat into sleep, hoping for a reprieve. The following day, a holiday, I slept in, weighed down by mental exhaustion. With Keaton at work, I braced myself for an uncomfortable encounter with my mother-in-law. Her comments about my late start to the day were laced with sarcasm, but nothing could have prepared me for her next directive. She informed me of Dylan's return from maternity leave and bluntly suggested I move my belongings outside to accommodate them. Her words left me stunned, questioning whether I had misunderstood her intention in my groggy state. Was she actually suggesting I live in the yard, or was this her way of telling me to leave the house altogether? Her rationale was cruelly straightforward. In her eyes, I neither contributed to Keaton's business nor fulfilled the role of bearing children, so the least I could do was make space for those who mattered. This shocking proposition marked a new low in our already strained relationship, highlighting the challenges of blending family dynamics with personal expectations and boundaries. Indeed, my mother-in-law suggested I move out to accommodate Dylan and his growing family, effectively replacing me with storage space. Initially, I was allowed an office space due to the abundance of spare rooms, and while losing my office didn't trouble me, the idea of being displaced so Dylan's family could have additional amenities did sting. Given the rent, I contribute a hefty $20,000. This dismissal from my own home felt especially harsh. Exhausted by the constant strain, I opted for peace of mind over confrontation, silently consenting to my mother-in-law's plan. Okay, I'll leave, I decided after a moment of quiet reflection. The decision to walk away from the complexities of my life with Keaton, my mother-in-law, and the incoming family of Dylan was liberating. I'll need to come back for my things later, I informed them, planning to store my belongings elsewhere. My mother-in-law's content response as I began packing underscored the relief my departure brought her. Barely a moment after exiting, I reached out to a junk removal service from my phone, determined to move forward without looking back. This decision, born from a desire to halt the cycle of overthinking, was irreversible. In the immediate aftermath, I sought refuge in a hotel, giving myself space and time to process and plan my next steps. 3 weeks later, I had settled into a new apartment, embracing solitude. Keaton had not reached out, perhaps underestimating my resolve. The situation with Keaton reached a turning point when, expecting him to notice my absence from his restaurant operations, I received a bewildered call from him. The restaurant, devoid of essential equipment and furnishings, stood empty. His shock was palpable over the phone. I couldn't resist a laugh, suggesting a more comprehensive conversation with his mother present might clarify things. His plea for me to return and open the restaurant was met with amusement on my part. As I prepared to face them, amused by Keaton's dismay at the stripped-down restaurant. The clear message sent through the empty spaces of the restaurant was a bold statement of my departure. A final act to underline the seriousness of my decision. The looming confrontation was not just about the physical absence of restaurant essentials, but a deeper reckoning with the choices that led us here. Upon my return to the house, my mother-in-law immediately launched into a tirade, partially informed by Keaton's selective sharing of the situation. Dylan and his wife, newcomers to the drama, sat in the living room with looks of bewilderment, trying to piece together the chaos and my mother-in-law's fiery anger. "Why would you shut down the restaurant like this?" she berated. I calmly responded, stating that as the owner of the restaurant, it was within my rights to begin closing it down or to dispose of its assets as I saw fit. "Your restaurant? What are you talking about?" she demanded, turning to Keaton for an explanation he had yet to fully provide. Keaton hesitated, then began explaining how I played a pivotal role in revitalizing the second branch of his restaurant, not just with ideas, but with substantial financial investment. "Yes, the improvements, the new equipment, the menu expansion, all of it," my mother-in-law acknowledged, recalling the transformation. Keaton admitted, "Anaya covered those costs." This revelation left my mother-in-law visibly confused, struggling to connect the dots. To clarify, I explained my situation before marrying Keaton. As a single individual with a successful career in training clients, I had amassed significant savings, partly because we didn't splurge on a wedding or a new house. I lent Keaton $400,000 to rescue his floundering second restaurant branch. But it wasn't just a loan, I clarified. I bought the rights to that branch, making me its owner. I explained further that, while I left the day-to-day management to Keaton, I owned the branch. This decision came at a critical moment when Keaton's business faced challenges, and after my mother-in-law criticized me for not showing enough faith in my husband, I chose to support him fully, albeit in a non-traditional way. This investment wasn't just financial, it was a testament to my belief in Keaton's abilities and our shared future, even if it meant stepping into the background as the silent partner and owner. During my single years, I had diligently saved money, which I eventually offered to Keaton as a means to support his floundering restaurant. "Is this true?" I asked him, and he confirmed, appreciating that I was prepared for the possibility of failure with the $400,000 investment. Given the amount's significance, we agreed that if the restaurant were at risk of failing, it would make more sense for me to take ownership. This way, any profits could directly offset the investment, and I would have the autonomy to decide the restaurant's fate. My mother-in-law was incredulous, questioning the validity of such an arrangement. Understanding her skepticism, I presented documents like the business license, the transfer of rights agreement, and the lease agreement that evidenced my ownership of the restaurant. The sight of my name on these official papers left her speechless and visibly shaken. "Why was this kept from me?" she demanded, highlighting her long-standing support for Keaton and his efforts to revitalize the restaurant. Before we were married, she had always pushed Keaton, believing in him and the business's recovery, inadvertently pressuring him to meet her expectations and not disappoint her as the family's provider. She had a habit of being dismissive towards those she felt weren't meeting their obligations, like me and Dylan, making it difficult for Keaton to confess he had borrowed a significant sum from me. The underlying issue was that people like my mother-in-law often fail to see the immense pressure their expectations can create. What might seem like casual comments to them can feel like insurmountable demands to the recipient. Had Keaton voiced his concerns, she would likely have responded with disappointment, further straining their relationship. I chose to remain silent, not wanting to exacerbate the situation, especially as the restaurant began to show signs of improvement. However, I had hoped she would resist the idea of Dylan and his family moving in, suspecting that Keaton agreed without fully considering the implications, perhaps thinking it was merely a professional courtesy. This complex web of financial aid, ownership, and familial expectations highlighted the delicate balance we navigated, demonstrating the profound impact of communication and understanding in navigating personal and professional challenges. I acknowledged the complex situation, attributing a significant part of the responsibility to myself. Keaton, with a heavy heart, admitted his shortcomings, regretting not only his inability to manage the restaurant effectively from the start, but also his failure to be forthright about the financial assistance I provided. He feared the impact of the restaurant's closure on the part-time workers, but I reassured him that I had already taken steps to secure alternative employment for them through my training clients network over the past week. This gesture alleviated my mother-in-law's primary concern, leading to a moment where both she and Keaton offered heartfelt apologies. They recognized the undue pressure and conflicts that had arisen, promising a change in dynamics and expressing regret for the hardships caused. It seemed we were on the verge of mending fences, but I was far from ready to let the matter rest. The atmosphere shifted dramatically when Keaton discovered divorce papers among the documents. His shock was palpable, having anticipated a move towards reconciliation. However, I clarified that reconciliation was not a foregone conclusion, especially in light of Keaton's rumored affair with a part-time employee in a fin affair that, contrary to his belief, was not a well-kept secret. I presented photographic evidence of Keaton's indiscretion, a picture sent to me by a concerned part-time worker. This image depicting Keaton entering a hotel served as tangible proof of his actions, undermining any claims of innocence. I pointed out that his newfound confidence, bolstered by the successful turnaround of the restaurant, might have led him to overstep bounds, affecting not just our relationship, but the workplace environment as well. As the restaurant's owner, my direct involvement in its daily operations was limited, but I remained connected to the staff and their concerns. The part-time workers had approached me, troubled by Keaton's behavior, seeking my intervention. This situation highlighted not only the personal betrayal I felt, but also the professional responsibility I bore to address the issues within the restaurant, underscoring the complexity of intertwining personal and business relationships. When I committed to addressing the situation, the part-time workers rallied around me, offering their support in a remarkable way. They shared evidence of Keaton's affair, discreetly provided proof, and maintained silence about the imminent closure of the restaurant. This collective effort brought to light the depth of the issue at hand. Amidst these revelations, my mother-in-law, concerned with the practicalities of our living arrangements, questioned the future of the house rent. I had yet to disclose that I had been bearing the full burden of the $20,000 monthly rent for our home. Keaton confirmed this, explaining that as the restaurant's revenue dwindled, my financial contribution had increased, eventually covering the entire rent. With the prospect of divorce looming and only the main restaurant left to Keaton, it became evident that continuing to live in this house was untenable. Both Keaton and my mother-in-law were visibly disheartened by this realization, their hopes diminishing as the reality of their situation set in. Dylan and his wife, now grasping the complexity of our circumstances, voiced their concerns. Dylan's plea for assistance and a job was met with the harsh truth that the restaurant could no longer afford additional staff, much less provide them with housing. The ensuing argument between the brothers and the strain it placed on their relationship with their mother painted a bleak picture of their family dynamics. In the aftermath of the divorce, Keaton and his mother found themselves sharing a smaller apartment, their interactions strained and minimal. Meanwhile, I took on the task of closing the restaurant, a duty that fell to me as its owner. Despite the challenges, I managed to sell the relatively new kitchen equipment and furniture, recouping some of the investment. This endeavor, though fraught with difficulty, allowed me to close the chapter on the restaurant with a sense of resolution. While my tenure as a restaurant owner was brief, it was an enlightening experience, teaching me valuable lessons about business, relationships, and the importance of clear communication. These trials, I believe, will someday enrich my career in training clients. The chaos that ensued, from uncovering the truth about the restaurant to dealing with Keaton's infidelity, has convinced me that I am better suited to work than to marriage. Today, I dedicate myself to my profession, navigating through the aftermath of these events with a blend of determination and introspection. The closure of the restaurant and the unveiling of its true ownership, alongside the revelation of Keaton's affair, laid bare the deep fissures within our family. The financial strain introduced by shutting down the second branch only compounded the already tense situation. Though apologies were exchanged, the path to mending these relationships appears fraught with complexity and uncertainty. The filing for divorce was a decisive step, signifying my refusal to tolerate betrayal. This decision underscored my resolve to regain control over my life, even at the cost of ending my marriage. This fallout did not spare Dylan and his expectant family, putting a spotlight on the brittle nature of family ties when tested. The looming questions of where to live and how to secure financial stability plunged all parties into a state of limbo. The resulting emotional burden manifested in the strained interactions and the palpable tension that enveloped us. In closing this chapter of my life, the restaurant's end and the dissolution of my marriage, I'm left pondering the future. The story concludes with a certain degree of resolution, but also opens up a multitude of unanswered questions about the ability of each individual to rebuild their lives and mend their relationships after such a profound upheaval. This narrative doesn't just mark an end, it heralds the onset of a new journey for each of us. As we each step forward from the ruins of these tumultuous times, the lessons learned and the scars borne will undoubtedly shape our paths ahead.